Perfect. Folks, it's certainly a pleasure to be back here at the Eastern Stakes Exposition, the legendary Big E and Sorton Showmanship. It's our first class today. We're talking about how these kids are presenting their goats, and that's kind of what we're judging them on. For me, it was a really tough class. I think we got three really good showmen top to bottom, and there's just some minor differences. Young man with the big red goat comes in with the confidence to rule the world. He comes in with his head high, his goat's head high. He gets this one set, gets it stuck, steps back away from it, and shows herself off. I think he does a really good job presenting it. Although if I could tweak him maybe just so slightly, I think we always want to kind of keep those rear legs kind of up underneath her, just maybe a half inch. I think we could make her look just a little better if we pushed her back just a fuzz, and sometimes that's hard to do on a big goat. Young man that comes in second, I think in terms of fundamentals, in terms of getting it set square, out on all four corners, getting its head up and really showing it off, I think he does a really good job. What I want him to work on is smoothing himself out. As he's making transitions, as he's working with the goat, if we can just gain that confidence and gain some smoothness, I think it changes the way we look at this class ever so slightly. I think you, in terms of the young lady that follows you, is just a little bit more articulate in setting feet and legs. I think you're just a little bit more articulate in getting them correct and square where they need to be. So we go ahead and roll you in second. Young lady comes in third, another one that comes in with all the confidence in the world, and I love that about this young showman. I think one that does a really good job in terms of transition and moving around. But we got to work on feet and legs. Those rear legs we want to set out way outside of her skeleton. We talked about, as we were talking about what we like and what we'd like to change, that you'd like to see more oomph and power back there. Don't overcompensate for that. Sometimes we like to, on short goats, we want to stretch them out too far, or goats that we want to be a little more square. Find where she's comfortable. And if you notice, part of the reason the goat wants to fidget and move all the time is because she's uncomfortable in the way that you've got her set. So work with this to go. I think she's a wonderful showmanship, though, but find where she's comfortable, where she will plant and stand, and that's probably where we need to stick with her at and go from there. But in terms of confidence and talking about your project and what you like and what you don't like, I think you hit it spot on. Three really good showmen. Let's give them all a round of applause.
So in our class of intermediate showmen, third place, Zoe Edwards. Second place, Gavin Underwood. And first place, Henry Underwood. In now is our senior showmanship. In the ring now are our senior showmen. The showmen are judged upon how well they handle their animals and present their animals, and also their knowledge. The judge goes around and looks probably very hard at how they're handling their animals and what they're doing. Up next, we'll be beginning our percentage doe class. So if we could have our percentage does start headed towards the ring.
a tremendous set of showmen out here, and we took some time to let them kind of go through their work and the effort that they've put into this. I think all of them are exceptionally good, and what I have to commend, and every time I come into New England and get to work with youth, I always am blown away by how sharp and articulate they are, how they can explain their projects second to none, and I really appreciate that wholeheartedly. For me, I think it really is a close decision between first and second, and I think we get just some minor differences as we get out here. We get one that comes in with a black dapple doe. The goat just doesn't necessarily want to cooperate in the beginning, but she gets it under control. She never stops showing. And even though sometimes I may not have got that perfect look, if I gave her another 5 seconds, I had it. And I think that's got to, we got to say something to commend that one for that. One that you certainly appreciate, just the intensity that she comes in the show ring, the way she manages her stock, the way she moves, and as it's how she's deliberate in terms of the way she sets feet and legs. I think we can say the same thing about the young lady comes in second. I think one that's just impeccable in terms of getting it set. My showmanship motto is set it and forget it. So set those feet and legs and let it go, and I think she follows right into that hole pretty well and does an outstanding job. Anytime that we go to look at this one, we go to talk about this one, I think she hits it dead on. The young lady that comes in third, I think one that gets a goat that's very hard to show. She's not that pretty show doe. She's a big, broody powerhouse of a female, and it's really hard to grab the attention because she just gets a little more wasty about her. But what I appreciate about this showman is just how she can explain that this is a big, powerful, big, broody doe. How she can talk about how she wants to clean her up and pretty her up. But one that I think as we get out in the class, maybe not as attentive to feet and legs. Sometimes we get this one ever so slightly off, and that makes that top drop even more. But that's being pretty nitpicky on a good showman walking out in third. Showman that comes in fourth, I think, does a really fantastic job with this long-sided, pretty-fronted one. I think sometimes we may want to get those front legs just outside of herself and make her look knock-kneed, which is not the case, but sometimes we just kind of overset her, and that's just a small critique on a good showman. We get a pair of showmen here that are very similar in terms of type and kind and style of showmen. They're both their tail grabbers. I'm not a tail grabber, and I would rather have that goat naturally pull that tail up instead of sitting there and holding it. I think as we get into it, especially if we get into longer classes, that just makes that goat get more fidgety and more moving. But I think the young lady is one, in terms of actually showing her goat off the best, I think does it better today and getting feet and legs set. This one out on all four corners. This one's head up, and this one really kind of showing herself off. The young man that follows, I think, is right close behind her. One that may be another one that's showing a goat that may not be as fresh, and sometimes that certainly can play a factor, but one that certainly gets this one's head up, talks about how long and how he loves the length and power and levelness in her, but maybe not quite as quick to move on those front feet as the young lady that walks out in front of him. The young lady that follows with a really gorgeous red female, I think sometimes we can get this one stretched out just too far, but one that's certainly very proud of the goat that she's showing, and I really appreciate that. The young lady that follows gets one. Another one that I think sometimes we forget about those rear legs, and just always, regardless if we pulled or not, let's work on getting feet and legs set, good and square. We round out the class, young man with a goat that just struggled, a knucklehead to show. One that I think he does a really good job as he moves around the ring. I think we can continue to work on feet and leg placements to get any higher, but a really good class of showmanship. Let's give him a round of applause.
So in our senior showmanship class, 9th place, Christian Evans. 8th place, Meredith Cope. 7th place, Amy Wicknick. 6th place, Kellen McGran. 5th place, Riley Edwards. 4th place, Leah Walters. 3rd place, Krista Friel. 2nd place, Danica Dicey. And in 1st place, Hannah Staub. And now is our Showmanship Championship.
Let's put our hands together for both of our showmanship classes and divisions as they come out here and get ready for our champion and reserve. We have our first over on the rail. We have our reserves here in the middle. A really nice, tremendous set of showmen. I think all four of these do a really good job. I think we got two out here that's just a tick more polished. I think we got two out here that's just a tick more precise in terms of setting their feet and legs, showing their animal to the best of their ability. I'm going to stay in that last class for my champion and reserve. Congratulations.
So our reserve champion for showmanship is Danica Dicey, and our champ is Hannah Staub. In now are our 3 to 6 month old percentage does. These are does that are not 100% Boer goat, but they are some higher percentage of Boer goat.
Moving into our ABGA percentage dose show, starting with our percentage as 3 to 6 month old class. We start with a paint doe that's just truly tremendous. Any way you look at her, she's wide base. She opens through that chest floor. She carries width and dimension through that center rib. She's extended and fancy fronted. She comes out into a beautiful hip that's really good and square at her pin. She's good and square at her hock. She carries a tremendous amount of depth of muscle and shape down into that rear leg. We got a nice one walking out to win the class. The black dapple-headed female that follows her, one that gets just a tad more frail compared to our class winner, but when you love the levelness across her top line, you love how pretty fronted she is, we'd like to stouten her up quite a bit to get her any higher today.
So in our 3 to 6 month old percentage does class, second place, Silly Hill Frozen Snowdrop by M. Thompson. And our first place, Sweet as Pie, owned by Tegan Walker. And now is our 6 to 9 month old percentage doe.
Single entry out here in our 6 to 9 class, but one that certainly needs some competition. This doe is legit. She's as wide-based, as hard-muscled, as big-topped as you can make one. That's got all the prettiness up through her front end, how she's designed up through that front third. Really feminine, really good-headed and good horns. She comes into a big, powerful center rib and body. You put your hands on her. The width and dimension she's got at the point of that shoulder, she carries all the way back out through that pin set. She's handling with a tremendous amount of expression of muscle. Super, super good. I like this one a good bit. Be excited to see her back out here for the drive.
So in our 6 to 9 month old percentage doe class, first place, Cosmopolita, Tegan Walker.
We got another single entry in our 9 to 12 class. This black-headed doe is another one that needs some competition out here. She's certainly one that's good and correct off her feet and legs. She's fancy and feminine fronted. She's broad and powerful through her center rib. Just a nice one to come out and win that 9 to 12 class. Let's give her a round of applause.
So in our 9 to 12 month old percentage doe class, we have first place Lash Hazel, owned by Tegan Walker.
We've had a pretty low number in terms of number of percentage doe, junior percentage does, but we got a heck of a set out here. I think a lot of quality. For me, there's one out here that puts it all together in terms of style and eye appeal and balance, one that's extremely heavy muscled and stout made, yet refined and pretty fronted, one that's out on all four corners, one that's just a unique creature to look at. That doe out of the middle will be my junior champion. I think it gets a tag closer for me as we get into reserve, and I think you look on either end of this one and you find good, solid, quality females. For me, I like the hip, the shape, the natural shape, and the natural depth of muscle, the natural pin set of the little red doe. She'll be my reserve. Congratulations.
So our reserve champion junior percentage doe, Sweetest Pie, owned by Tegan Walker, and our champion, Cosmopolita, owned by Tegan Walker. Ringside, we'll have our 12 to 16 month old percentage does coming in. If we could have the rest of the yearlings ringside, please.
We get a well of a female that comes out and wins this 12 to 16 class. Talking about one that's boldly three-dimensional. She's long-sided and long-spined, feminine-fronted. She's wide-based, big and bold-centered, and tremendous through her pin set. She's one that's got mass and style, yet she's one, as you look at her, she gets really fault-free. She's the topping kind you wish you had a field full of. And another one that comes at us with just a tremendous amount of meat and muscle and power on a frame and design that you certainly appreciate. Taking nothing away from the fancy cape-fronted female, one that's really up-fronted, one that in comparison to our class winner, a little shorter-sided, maybe not quite as blown apart, but one that certainly got some eye appeal to her, one that's certainly attractive-fronted and built correctly from the ground up. Two really nice 12 to 16s. Congratulations.
So in our 12 to 16 month old percentage doe class, second place, Fuel on the Fire, owned by Danica Dicey. In first place, Drunk on a Boat, owned by Tegan Walker. In now is our 16 to 20 month old percentage does.
we get out here, we got a tremendous Cape female that comes out and wins this class pretty handily for me. She's got length of side. She's got femininity and style and look. She's one that's got some base width to her. She's got some rib shape. She's got some turn to the rib and open in that center rib. You love the shape of her head and her horn. I think a really nice one to come out and get that blue ribbon. The doe that comes in second, one I appreciate in terms of just mass and power. She's massed up. She's got tons of shape. She's thick from end to end. She gets just a little bit more open in that shoulder. She may not be quite as attractive as our class winner, but I certainly think one that fits the mold in terms of mass and power and follows our winner very well. We round out the class with one that certainly on the profile is as attractive as they can be. You love how extended fronted. You love how level top she is. One that you certainly appreciate that balance and eye appeal that she's got. But you get down to the ground and you get your hands on her, and she's just the narrowest gauge, narrowest made one out here. Thank you all.
So in our 16 to 20-month-old percentage doe class, third place, All In Reckless, owned by Hannah Staub. Second place, Super Duty, owned by Danica Dicey. And in first place, Call Me the Breeze, owned by Matthew Edrick.
I think we certainly got a tremendous set of four out here for our yearling champion. And I think as you evaluate the two class winners, I think you realize they have to stay together. It's just which direction you go. And I think as you look at them, we get one that's just a tad cleaner fronted, one that's just a tad longer sided, one that's just a notch thicker and more powerful when you get your hands on her. Although she may not be quite as heavy bone, I'll still take that power, that length, and that pretty. That 12 to 16 will be my champion. We'll go to the phenomenal Cape Doe as our reserve. Congratulations. In the step-up program, we'll do the kind of the junior winners and champion and reserve. Our junior or our champion and reserve on this one, we'll stay right in. We'll stay with that one in that last class. I think one that just comes at us with more mass and power. We get to tighten her up ever so slightly in terms of her structure, and we'll step up to the cape-fronted female. You love the pretty about her, but you'd like to maybe mass her up just a tad bit. Congratulations.
So for our yearling reserve champion, Call Me the Breeze, owned by Matthew Hetrick. And our champion, Drunk on a Boat, owned by Tegan Walker. And for the junior step-up program, we have Fuel in the Fire, owned by Danica Dicey for reserve, and our champion is Super Duty, owned by Danica Dicey.
We start with I think, a really interesting class to sort through. I think we got three different types and kinds of goats, and I'm going to start with the red one today. I think one that comes at us with just more depth of body. There's more mass and bone and power to her. I think she's one that certainly you love the rib shape, the depth of body, and the dimension. You love how clean her chest floor is. You love her bone, her feet, and her legs. I think we get a nice one to walk out and win the class. Taking nothing away from the black-headed doe, I think one that's just an extreme doe. You either are going to love her or you're not, and I think she's one that you love the length, you love the extension about her. She gets a tad frailer at the ground in terms, for me, she's a little bit more pointed up in that breastplate, but I think we got one that can make some exotic critters here. I'd like to maybe just mass her up ever so slightly to get her higher today. We round out the class with Miss Mass, is what I'm going to call her. She is just a tank of a female. She's extremely big and stout. She gets a little waistier up through that front end. For me, she's just a little too overweight for me to get her any higher today. I think there's a ton of good there. She just, kind of like me, a little on that round side.
So in our 24 to 36 month old percentage doe class, in third place is Claire, owned by Danica Dicey. Second place is Crossbows Blackjack Shellac, owned by Tegan Walker. And in first place is You Are Melted Chocolate, owned by Henry Underwood.
Face that way. That way they can see it on the camera. We got a 36 plus doe here. One you certainly love the length of body and the extension through her front end. She's one you love how deep and soggy and productive that she looks. She's one that certainly can get out and move around the ring. I love the depth of twist that she brings. We got a nice 36 plus that we'll see back out here in our senior drive. Sometimes tattoo issues happen and we have to send one out, but we send a really nice one out of that 36 plus class. I think as we get out here for a champion in reserve, I don't know that would have changed or not. I think we get two females out here. both good in their own right, both extremely different. And I picked the Red Doe for how maternal and deep-bodied she is, but taking nothing away from the black-headed doe that'll be a reserve in terms of being flat-out fancy and cool. I think we got two nice ones that'll represent our senior division when we get out here for champion and reserve.
For our senior doe, percentage doe reserve champion, it's Crossbows Blackjack Shellac, and our champion is You Are Melted Chocolate. Entering the show ring now are all of our champions and reserve champions for the percentage does class. We'll be selecting an overall, reserve overall champion.
Folks, let's put it together, our hands together for our percentage doe drive. As we get our junior, our yearling, and our seniors out here, we get a really phenomenal set. We get some animals that are truly outrageous in terms of the way they're designed, the amount of meat and muscle they pack in, the amount of look and style they put in. For me, it comes down to two or three as I get in and look at them and evaluate them. I think we got two or three that are very close for it. We got one for me, though, that's that outlier. She's the one that's the freak out here. She's one that's so freak-fronted and massive-backed and just truly killer in terms of the way she's designed. She may not be the heaviest bone. I don't care. When you can put that much muscle on them, I don't eat bone. I want that one. That junior champion is going to be my champion percentage, though. As we get into our reserve, I do think it gets a tad closer, but for me, I think there's one that kind of goes along with that. I think she's one that certainly has got some style and look to her. She's extremely balanced. She's big and bold-ribbed, and she's another one that's extremely powerful down her top and out of her hip. We'll go to that yearling as our reserve. Congratulations. As we do the junior step-up program, right there is good. As we do the junior step-up program, we get three animals out here for the junior or the step-up champion percentage doe and reserve. And for me, there's one that just exudes maternal look. She's got so much depth of body, and she's big-footed, and she's bold-made. She's just plain out pretty. That red doe will be our champion in our step-up program. Followed by stepping up to the spot-sided female, one that's massive and powerful as our reserve. Congratulations.
About to enter the show ring is our 0 to 3 month old full blood does. We're moving through our full blood doe class, so if we could have people starting to head ringside, please. Full blood does. So for our reserve overall champion percentage doe, Drunk on a Boat, owned by Tegan Walker. And our champion, Cosmopolita, owned by Tegan Walker. And in our junior step-up program, our reserve, Super Duty, owned by Danica Dicey. And our champion, Melted Chocolate, owned by Henry Underwood.
As we get into our full blood doe show, starting with two really nice 0 to 3 month old doe kids. I went ahead and used the bigger female. I think she's always going to be the longer female that comes at us with more extension. I think she's one that comes at us with a bit more base width, especially when we view her as she's walking from behind. Taking nothing away from the young doe in second. I like the front end assembly maybe a bit more than our class winner. I think she comes at us with a little more natural width through that chest floor. I love the way she ties it up through her front end. She's not quite as long. She's not quite as powerful in terms of her pin set and her hock compared to our class winner. But I think we got two nice ones here. Let's give them a round of applause.
So in our 0 to 3 month old full blood doe class, second place, Pepper, owned by Danica Dicey. And first place is Molly, owned by Danica Dicey.
really interesting class to sort through. And I think as you get in the top 3 or 4 in this class, you can flip and flop them any way you want. I went ahead and used the Cape female to win the class. She comes at us just longer sided. And I'll be the first to say, looking at her, she looks probably a tad mature compared to the doe that comes in second. But regardless, I think she's always a longer-sided, longer-strided female. It's just bigger-footed, and she comes at us square enough off of both ends that we like her. She's really good-headed, just stout-made, and really cool to look at. Taking nothing away from the red doe in second, one that I really like, and one that's really probably more my type and kind if I was going to buy one that's just ultra big and bold ribbed, one that's certainly wound up and chock full of power. But if we want to get critical of her, we can stouten her up in terms of her bone. We can lengthen her out ever so slightly. But as I said, I also think she's probably one of the younger ones in the class. We got a nice one walking out in second. The doe that comes in third, man, oh man, oh man. I think this doe is the type and kind we get real excited about. She's wide-based. We love the depth of body. We love the natural shape that she's got. We love how headed she is. If we could fix one thing on her, I think we could probably have a different discussion for our class winner, and that's those pasture. And she's just a tad longer and weaker in that, and I want to fix that about her. But I think in the way she's designed through her front end, the breed character about her head and her horns, I think there's enough good there. We're not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. We're going to keep her in our top 3. The dapple paint that comes in next is one that we certainly appreciate in terms of squareness and dimension. One that's really square off of both ends of her skeleton. Maybe one not quite as attractive fronted. One that's maybe not quite as level topped as the 3 that stand in front. We certainly appreciate just the mass and power that she's got from end to end. I think the red doe that comes in next, one we certainly appreciate in terms of the length of body, one that's really pretty fronted and really cool. I think this is one at this point in time, we're going to look at her as a yearling. I think she's just going to be a little later maturing. She's one that I think in terms of lines and correctness and the way she moves at the ground, we really like her. I think she's just getting out horse and out power today, and that's, I think, just a maturity factor. The red paint doe coming in next, I think one certainly got some width and dimension to her. You love how long-sided she is through her front end. She just gets a little higher at the point of that hip, a little more steeper from hooks to pins. We just want to kind of change her out across that top line to make her more competitive. The doe that follows is the opposite. She don't drop. She roaches up. We want to relax her in that spine, make it tie in together a little better, and I think it'll just make her look better on the profile. I think she's one that's certainly a fancy-looking one. In comparison to some of the other ones out here, she's not the overtly thickest one, but I think she's got some things about her. She just wants to roach up in that top, and we want to relax her in that. We round out the class with a young one out here. I think one that certainly got some parts and pieces for us to take home and grow out. I think today just gets a tad more flat and slab-sided compared to the rest of them, but a really nice class of 3 to 6. Thank you.
And in our 3 to 6 month old full blood doe class, 8th place, Exotic Socks, owned by Henry Underwood. 7th place, Miss Scarlet, owned by Eric Marin. 6th place, Catalea, owned by Danica Dicey. 5th place, Keep Deciding, owned by Danica Dicey. 4th place, Dream Crusher, owned by Janine Hill. 3rd place, Borgo's Onyx Legacy, owned by Zoe Edwards. 2nd place, Cream Saver, owned by Tegan Walker. And in 1st place, Fully Loaded, owned by Matthew Hedrick. And in the ring now is our 6 to 9 month old full blood does. Ringside, I'd like to have our 9 to 12 month old full blood does, please.
Let's give those exhibitors left out on the rail a round of applause. We'll work out of the 6 that's out in the middle and get you a class winner here shortly. But let's give them one more round of applause as they're exiting the ring. got an interesting class of 6 to 9, right? 6 to 9, 6 to 9 full blood does out here. I think quality is really good. I think all of these have got things that were easy for me to pick and sort them to the top end of this class. For me, my class winner is the big-footed, long-sided, up-fronted female. That's just got a ton of mass and volume and power. She's got a big top, a tremendous hip into her. You love the outline that she's got. She's up-headed, she's big-footed, she's stout-made, yet she still looks like a female. Undeniably, the one that's probably the most fault-free is the spot back doe that comes in second. One I'd like to lengthen out ever so slightly, but one that's extremely green today in terms of where she's at. But she's the one of the squarest females we've seen off of both ends of her skeleton. She's elevated and pretty fronted, but when you really fall in love with her, you get your hands on her at the point of that shoulder and handle her down her top and out of her hip, and she's just raw muscle. I'm going to be pretty excited to watch this one continue to grow and develop, because I think there's a ton of goat there. She's just green. The doe that follows, I think, follows our class winner really well from that hip forward. From the hip back, she wants to narrow up ever so slightly from hooks to pins, and that's where I want to change her. And then we put her in motion, we certainly see it in the way that she tracks and travels off of her rear too. But if from hips forward, we love the strength that she's got in her center body. We love the elegance she's got up through her front end, yet she's still massive and powerful. We got a good one there if we could tweak ever so slightly. Undeniably, the doe that everybody's going, oh, there's the class winner, is the doe that I put in fourth. And I really love this doe when we look at her in terms of just profile. She's so elegant through her front end. You love her head and her horn. You love her length of body. You love the shape that she's got. But we get her in motion, and I've just got to change the way she travels off her rear, too. She wants to kind of swing in off of both sides and kind of just be really close and tight at the hock. And a lot of times that's what we see when we get one that gets that much frame underneath them. They want to be in underneath themselves ever so slightly. I think this one, as she continues, I think that she might come out of that to some extent, but one that we certainly appreciate in terms of look and style. The black paint female is one that's just intriguing and one that's hard to look at. You love the rib and the design in her. You love how feminine fronted she is. She's certainly got some muscle and some correctness to her. She's one, if I could do anything, I'd stouten her up. I'd put another shot of muscle down deep into that rear leg. We round out with a good soggy black dapple doe. Love how maternal she is, how deep-bodied she is. She's one that gets a little longer in those pasterns. She's a little steeper out of that hip. But I think one that certainly has got some mass and power that makes us excited for future generations. Let's give them all a round of applause. Thank you.
And on our 6 to 9 month old full blood doe class, 6th place, Mystic Moon, owned by Janine Hill. 5th place, Rockin' Stormy Love, owned by Tegan Walker. 4th place, Tell Me What You Know, owned by Leah Walters. 3rd place, All Dolled Up, owned by Tegan Walker. 2nd place, Monica, owned by Leah Walters. And in 1st place, Criminal Intent, owned by Leah Walters. In the show ring now is our 9 to 12 month old full blood doe class. Following that will be our championship drive. Shortly, we will be moving into our full-blood yearlings. If I could have you all start thinking about headed on up to the show ring.
As we get out here in our 9 to 12, another tremendous class. For me, class winner is a pretty easy one. A female that comes out with so much rib shape, so much correctness about her frame and about the way that she's designed front to back. The way she moves and motors around the ring, comes at us and away from us with a tremendous amount of mass and power. Yet she's still refined and pretty up through that front end, one that you certainly get pretty excited about when she walks in the ring. Take another away from the doe that comes in second. The doe that comes in second is one you certainly appreciate in terms of length of body, in terms of frame size. She's up off the ground. She's long-sided, but you get on either side of her, she just don't have the natural mass and dimension as the doe that walks out in front of her. The doe that follows, talk about another one that's hard-handled, hard-handling and raw-muscled. You get your hands on her, that's all you feel. She's got a tremendously deep twist. I love the mass and power out of her hip. In comparison to the two in front of her, she's a little finer bone, maybe not quite as refined and pretty fronted, but I think we got a nice one walking out in third. The black dapple that follows, I think, comes at us with a tremendous amount of width through that chest floor. You love that center rib and cavity to her, but in comparison to the doe that walks out, I don't think she's just quite as heavy muscled or as deep twisted, and she's certainly not laid in about her spine quite as neatly as the doe that walks out in front of her. We round out the class with one that certainly is good and correct off her feet and legs, one that moves and motors really well as we walk her around the ring, but one that just gets overpowered in that horse today in terms of rib shape and design, but a really good class of 9 to 12s. Congratulations.
So in our 9 to 12-month-old full-blood doe class, 5th place, Shirley Temple, owned by Gavin Underwood. 4th place, Glamour Shot, owned by Janine Hill. 3rd place, Double Jeopardy, owned by Danica Dicey. 2nd place, Charlotte, owned by Matthew Hedrick. And in 1st place, Never Doubt the Future, owned by Tegan Walker. And now is our championship drive.
As we get out and select our junior champion full-blood doe, we get a really awesome set of 8 to look at. And for me, I think there's really a couple out here that 2 or 3 or 4 that really kind of suit my fancy and my liking. I think there's one in terms of rib shape and design, the way she comes out of her front end, so explosive yet refined and pretty fronted, big and bold rib, tremendous down her top and hip. A reserve, there's a couple ways that we can go with it, but one that I think matches her in terms of base width, one that's really good and true and correct, and one that I'm really excited to see as she continues to grow out. My champion junior doe goes the phenomenal black dapple out of the back. My reserve goes the fantastic Cape doe out of the 3 to 6. Congratulations. Good job. As we get into our step-up junior full-blood doe division, another really good set. I think still the quality is there. For me, I think there's a pair of goats that are very opposite in terms of type and kind, but they come out of the same class, and I think as we get in and look at quality, they just rival the rest. I think our champion's one that's long-sided and big-footed. One, if I want to critique, could be a little more genuine at the ground. The reserve is one that's extremely hard-muscled, and I think just needs more time. I'm going with champion reserve out of that 6 to 9 class. Congratulations.
So for our champions, for our junior full-blood does, reserve champ, fully loaded, owned by Matthew Hedrick. And our champion, Never Doubt the Future, owned by Tegan Walker. And in our Step Up program, our Step Up reserve is Monica, owned by Leah Walters. And our champion Step Up is Criminal Intent, owned by Leah Walters. In the show ring now is our 12 to 16 month old full blood does.
We're going to leave these two as they stand. The black dapple, though, is just so dimensional. She's wide base, she's big and bold ribs, she's pretty fronted, extremely good out of her hip. A nice one to come out and win the class, taking nothing away from the Cape fronted doe that comes in second, one that's certainly feminine fronted, but one that just gets outpowered in terms of skeletal width and dimension today. A really good class of 12 to 16.
In our 12 to 16 month old full blood doe class, second place, She's a Diva, owned by M. Thompson. And in first place is Operative Diva, owned by Tegan Walker.
as we get into our 16 to 20 month class, a really good deep class out here, starting with a just tremendous black dapple doe. Got the opportunity to judge the national show back in June, and judged with Clint Dimmitt, and he kept saying, "Man, that's mongo backed," and I was like, "You're too young. I don't understand what you're saying, but this one's mongo backed. If you get the opportunity to put your hands on her, I certainly would encourage you to, because she's one of the biggest squares top females that I've had my hands on in quite some time. She's out on all four corners. She's long as a well rope. She's as extended fronted as can be. She is absolutely impeccable coming out to win the class. The doe behind her is soft and maternal. I love the look about her. I love how she just glides together from tip to tail. Extremely well designed. I think she's one that's heavy muscled, yet still refined and pretty. Love the top line. Love the gentle sweep of her underline. A nice one walking out in second. I think the doe that comes in third, one that maybe not quite as strong across her top line, but one that we love the extension through her front end. We love the breed character about her head and her horn. She's big and massive coming out of that chest. Maybe not quite as big and massive coming out of that pen, and those are some things we could change on her to get her any higher. The doe that follows, maybe not quite as attractive fronted as the doe that walks out in front of her, but I think one that's solid. She's not overtly extremely huge, blown apart through her chest or her hip, but she's uniform from front to back. You love her depth of body. She looks broody. She's productive. She's good off her feet and legs. A nice one walking out in fourth. The dapple doe coming in next. I think one you really appreciate in terms of just how raw she is. She's not coming to us with a tremendous amount of extra fluff and show condition, but she's big-footed. She's got a big stout forearm. She's got length to side. She's up-fronted. Is she as blown apart? Is she as dimensional as some of the goats in front of her? Maybe not, and maybe that's what we can add to her. The spot back doe coming in, we're giving up some overall size and scale, but we're adding some natural base width off of both ends. And this is the one in showmanship we talked about overextending that rear leg. We got to be careful about that. I think she's wide enough where she's comfortable, and I think that's what where she excels, is she's big and bold and wide-based. Is she the biggest doe? No, but she carries a tremendous amount of muscle. We get her out in motion. She tracks and moves really well off of both ends. Would we like to lengthen her out and make her bigger? Certainly. We kind of go into that bigger size and style with this dapple doe that comes next. I think one we love in terms of that profile. As we look at her over here, she's good-headed. She's really elongated up through her front end, long spine, but she's one that gets a little more counterfeit and two-dimensional. You get in front of her and behind her, we just don't see the rib shape and design that we'd like to see about her. But I love the depth of body, and I think it's the depth of body that puts her over the doe that follows. The doe that follows, probably one of the prettiest head and horn females I've seen in a long time. You love the shape of her head. You love that depth of bottom jaw. And you like the length of this one in comparison to the one walking out. I think she's similar in terms of being narrower at the ground. We want to bust her open. But she gets just a tad more tubular in her design, maybe not quite as deep-bodied as we'd like to see. We'd like to see her as she goes out and matures and goes into production to drop into that rear flank. Red doe that follows, I think one that just gets a little bit more ill-balanced about herself, but one that certainly has got some muscle as you handle her down her top. She's as pretty fronted as they come. Could we open her up at the ground? We certainly could. And as we work on down the class, we get a two that walk out next. I think are just big and stout and broody. They just need some pretty to them. They could use some more shots of muscle out of their hip, but they're just big, broody, rugged, framey females. And we round out the class with one that balances really well, just gets outpowered and outhorsed to get any higher today. Thank you.
In our 16 to 20-month-old full-blood doe class, in sixth place, Domino, owned by Riley Edwards. Fifth place, Woodbury FFA Aurora Borealis, owned by Kelsey Marin. In fourth place, Forgotten Blue Prada, owned by Kelsey Marin. Third place, Breezewood Hills Farm Raven, owned by Janine Hill. Second place, Peregrine, owned by Danica Dicey. And in first place, Melodramatic, owned by Tegan Walker. Up now is our 20 to 24-month-old full-blood doe class, followed by our championship drive.
Sometimes as a class comes in the ring, you have your assumptions and your class winner picked, and then as you watch them move, you kind of get your heart broken ever so slightly. For me, my champion, the young lady in the red's got just a long-sided, up-fronted female that's more balanced in the way she moves around the ring. She's more balanced in the way she carries her top line and out of her hip, and just a nice one to come out and win the class. Taking nothing away from the doe in second. I think one that certainly got some squareness and shape to her. One that wants to get just a tad shorter couple, but my bigger concern is she gets a little higher at the point of that hip, lower at the point of the shoulder, and then slopes off from hooks to pins. Undeniably, if I could do it, my class winner would be the doe that comes in third. I love this goat from hock and knee forward and knee up. I think there's so much pretty in that front end, the way her head and horn is, how fancy neck she is. She's big and bold centered. She's tremendous down her top. She's just way too weak pasturing for me to get her up any higher today. But I think there's a ton of good there if we can work on that with some selenium and with some corrective hoof trimming and see if we can't get her up on her feet. Because I think this one can go play at many levels. You got a nice one walking out in third. The doe that comes next, we got a pair of dappled females next, and the young lady's doe that comes in, one that just carries her head a tick higher, one that's really level in her design, cool in her feature. She's just one that needs a whole lot more mass and power. We round out the class with one that just gets even more restricted at the ground, and one that you certainly love how she ties together, how smoothly she ties together from front to back. We just really got to open her up.
In our 24-month full-blood doe class, 5th place, You Look Sensational, owned by Margaret Thompson. 4th, Syringa Vulgaris, owned by Margaret Thompson. 3rd, Jagged Little Pill, owned by Christian Evans. 2nd, Drum Roll Please, owned by Danica Dicey. And our 1st place is Mojito, owned by Danica Dicey. And now is our yearling championship drive.
Let's give our hands, put our hands together for our yearling division. Another quality division top to bottom, but I think there's a pair of females that fit together, and it's pretty obvious how they fit together. But you get your hands on them, and one's just bigger backed and stouter made and stouter built. The reserve, I think, follows very similar in her footsteps, just maybe not quite as muscled and powered up. My champion goes to the 16 to 20. My reserve goes to the 12 to 16. As we get into our step-up program, looking at our juniors out here, I think there's one out here that was really in the contention in my mind against the pair of Black Dapple does, and that was taking really kind of stepping out. But one that I truly love in terms of how functional she is, how maternal she is. She's one that's certainly big and deep twisted and just plain out pretty. That doe out of the 16 to 20 class will be my step-up champion. It gets a tad closer for me for reserve, but I think there's one that's more dimensional from the ground up. I think there's one that's bigger and bolder skeletally from the ground up. I think she handles with more expression of muscle down her top. And although we may struggle sometimes getting those rear legs set where I think they might ought to be, set them back in just a little bit. Nope, listen to me, not your head. Set those rear legs back in. Pull that, nope. Yeah, you can scoot that one back towards the other one ever so slightly. There, she looks much better. She'll be our reserve. Congratulations. Okay. Good job.
For a yearling championship, full-blood does, our reserve champion is Operative Diva, owned by Tegan Walker. And our champion is Melodramatic, owned by Tegan Walker. And for the junior step-up program, our reserve champion is Domino, owned by Riley Edwards. And our champion is Peregrine, owned by Danica Dicey. In the show ring now is our 24 to 36 month old full-blood does, followed by our 36 plus. Then we'll be doing our championship drive, followed by our overall championship drive.
I think there's some give and take as we get out in this 24 to 36 month old class. I think we got two good females. I think we get one that's a tad more, is longer body, more extended fronted, a tad prettier fronted. We get one that maybe just a tick stouter in terms of bone. But I think overall, as we put things together, I think the red female is going to be our class winner in terms of the added extension, that added front end, that added elegance to her. Taking nothing away from the big-footed doe that comes in second. One that just starts at the point of the shoulder, a tad more sharp than our class winner, but two good 24 to 36s.
In our 24 to 36 month old full blood doe class, second place, Ox Creek, Shake It If You Got It, owned by Danica Dicey. In first place, Breezewood Hills Farm, Red Panda, owned by Janine Hill. And now is our 36 plus full blood does, followed by our championship drives.
As we get into our old girl class, certainly one to get excited about, starting with one that truly is remarkable as a 3-year-old in terms of just the way she's designed. Gorgeous head, breed character about her head and her horn. She's wide base, she's big and bold centered. She's got a productive udder on her. She's good and level across her top. Good and wide in terms of her pin set, powerful down into her stifle. Just a nice one to win. Taking nothing away from the doe that comes in second. One maybe not quite as easy across the top, or especially as we get out through the hip compared to our class winner, but one you love her depth of body. You love how robust and big ribbed she is. You love how heavy muscled she is. She's one that moves good and sound around the ring. A nice one walking out in second. The doe that comes in third, big doe one that gets a tad more waisty up through that chest floor, one that gets a tad bit more narrow based and narrow gauge at the ground. But in terms of frame and length and extension, you certainly love to see that type and kind out here, because we can always use that to put a shot of size back in our program. The doe that follows, I think, finds herself in a hard class. I think there's a lot of good here. She's a big ribbed, square made, pretty up-fronted female. Is she as heavy muscled? Is she as massive out of her hip as some of the others? She's not, and that's why she is where she's at. But I think there's a lot of good there. The doe that follows, one that's certainly up-fronted, one that out on all four corners, one that wants to get a little more uneasy about that top. I want to level her up right behind her shoulders ever so slightly to get her higher than that. We get into our red female, one that certainly has got some bone and shape to her as we talk about her forearm. One I'd like to see more productivity as we look into that udder. We round out the class with one really feminine and refined, one that gets outpowered quite a bit, but coming to us in tremendous condition. Congratulations on a good 36-plus class. As we get out here in our senior champion drive, we got a really good set, top to bottom of productivity, good, productive senior does. For me, I got one that just exudes breed character and the shape and type and kind. If we just talk about the silhouettes that I like to pick, I think she kind of fits the mold pretty easily. My reserve, I think, follows her pretty closely. One that's being really ultra refined, one that's being super deep yet still super stacked and powerful. My champion reserve comes out of that 36-plus class. Congratulations. Thank you. Good job. Good job. Good job. You might need to stay back up. As we do, the reserve senior division was also our step-up grand champion. So as we go out and pick our reserve, I think we get two good females out here. I think one's just stouter and more correct in the way that she's designed about her shoulder. We'll go with the doe out of that last class as a reserve. Congratulations. Let's give our full-blood exhibitors a round of applause. A tremendous full-blood doe show we've had here today. We got a tremendous set from our juniors to our yearlings to our seniors. You know, as you're stacking these in your brain, you're thinking, who fits together, who fits together? And for me, I think there's a logical pair, and I thought we might break it as we got into that senior division. But as I get out here and really look at them, I like to keep top and kind together, and I think we got a pair of females that are absolutely tremendous in terms of what they are, in terms of their dimension, their design, in terms of how they handle and how massive and powerful they are down their top. My champion and reserve come out of that yearling division. Congratulations. Good job. Good job. Good job. Good job. Now we got our step up, so you'll step up to our champion over here. As we come into that step up program where we always step up our juniors and let them come in and win and place and come out here. As we look across, we got a really nice set of females, top to bottom, front to back. For me, I think there's one I really appreciate in terms of just that depth of twist, just the way that she's designed front to back. I think she's one you put her in motion, and she's truer at her hock compared to her counterparts, and one that I really appreciate that doe out of that middle division will be our step-up champion. It gets in a little closer for me as we look on, we bring that one over and we look on either side for reserve. And I think there's a couple different ways that you can go. I think there's one in terms of just natural handle and raw muscle and power. You get your hands on her. She's just more robust and hits your hand with more mass and power. Starting at the point of that shoulder, working back. We'll go to the 36 plus as our step-up reserve. Thank you.
Up next, we'll be beginning with our buck classes. If I could have bucks on up to the ring, please. Bucks on up to the ring. So in our age doe 36 plus class, 6th place, Cool Breeze Kahiltna, owned by Amy Wicknick. 5th place, Poker Face, owned by Danica Dicey. 4th place, Hots Lilo, owned by Margaret Thompson. 3rd place, American Girl, owned by Janine Hill. 2nd place, Red Hot Ginger, owned by Riley Edwards. And in 1st place is Rule Breaker, owned by Tegan Walker. And in our championship senior does, our reserve, Red Hot Ginger, owned by Riley Edwards. And our champion, Rule Breaker, owned by Tegan Walker. And our overall champion in reserve is Operative Diva, owned by Tegan Walker, and our champion is Melodramatic, owned by Tegan Walker. In our step up youth, and our reserve is Poker Face, owned by Danica Dicey, and our champion is Red Hot Ginger, owned by Riley Edwards. Our overall reserve champion in our Step Up program is Red Hot Ginger, owned by Riley Edwards. And our champion is Peregrine, owned by Danica Dicey.
Starting our buck show off with a bang. Got a really nice 3 to 6 month old buck kid here. That's certainly big-footed. He's masculine fronted. He's long-sided, out on all 4 corners. A nice buck to come out and win the class. Taking nothing away from the younger buck that comes in and places second. I think a buck that certainly has got some width and dimension to him. He's really round-ribbed and square about his pin set. I'd like to maybe level him out across his top, give him a shot of bone and masculinity, but that comes with age. He'll be a nice one to grow out and see what he turns into. Let's give them both a round of applause.
So in our 3 to 6 month old buck class, second place, You Were Sweet and Spicy Ghost Pepper, owned by Henry Underwood. And in first place, Briarwood Rye 1, owned by Diana Otis. In now is our 6 to 9 month old buck class, followed by the 9 to 12 month old buck class. We could have all bucks ringside, please.
Moving in our 6 to 9 full blood buck class, starting with this sandy colored buck, one that just is just full of muscle and power out on all four corners, big and robust, centered, masculine fronted, yet he still balances really well. We got our really nice buck to come out and start the class. The black dapple-headed buck that follows. I love the foot and bone, the forearm on him. Really from the hip forward, there's a lot of good here in the way that he's designed up through his front end, the way he levels out down his top. He does get just a nickel straight off of those rear legs. I'd like to put some more angle in and about his hock and give him some more natural shape and muscle out of his hip. But one that I certainly think from hip forward can improve a lot of herds. I think the one to watch and to look at is the one that comes in third. I think this is the top and kind, just a little later maturing, but he's going to be a big rascal. I think he one that moves and motors around the ring fairly well, out on all four corners. He's really long-sided, long-spined, and extended fronted. I think he's one that's just going to take some time to come into himself. I think as we look at him as a 16 to 20, he's going to be pretty exciting. The buck that follows, one that I love up through the front end, he gets a tad shorter coupled compared to the three that stand in front of him. I want to give him another shot of rib, but I love how square he is off of both ends. He's certainly got some rib and dimension. He's certainly got some shape out of his hip. A red buck that follows, one that I really appreciate in terms of foot and bone. I think he's got a nice forearm, and on the profile, he looks really cool. We got over top of him and in front of him, and he just gets too narrow gauge for us to get him any higher. We really got to break him apart skeletally to get him there. The buck that follows, one that gets a tad hollow-kneed, one that gets a tad weak in his top, one that's just rangy and green at this point in time. But with the issues that I see in terms of feet and legs, I'm not sure that he's going to progress and get better. And we round out the class with one that just gets real fine-boned and spindly-legged, just not quite the meat, muscle, and power that we see with some of the other ones out here, but a really interesting class of bucks to sort through. Thank you all.
So in our 6 to 9 month old buck class, sixth place, Cool Breeze Tokyo Drift, owned by Amy Wicknick. Fifth place, Ride the Train, owned by Amy Jo Labby. Fourth place, Sansa Mojave, owned by Kelsey Marin. Third place, Cool Breeze Reposado, owned by Master Batisto. Second place, Gambling with Dominoes, owned by Kelsey Marin. And in first place, Big Daddy Red, owned by Matthew Hedrick.
As we get out in our 9 to 12, a single buck, and I think a buck, if we look at him hock and knee above, we really appreciate him. He's really long-sided. Like the shape about his head and his horn. We like the capacity and center rib that he's got. Got a cool silhouette about him. but we get down to the running gears. He's long pasterned off of both ends of his skeleton. You put him in motion, he's just not fluid and correct in the way that he's built and moves and motors around the ring. We like the top part of him. We'd like to change those running gears. We'll see him back out for the drive.
So in our 9 to 12 month old buck, first place, Black Knight, owned by Riley Edwards. Up now is your junior championship drive, followed by our yearling bucks.
As we get into our junior champion, Buck has certainly got some quality out here. We got some differences. We got one that certainly, I think, rises in terms of dimension and correctness and the way that he's put together from the ground up and butt forward. My junior champion goes to that sandy red buck out of the middle. I think it gets a tad closer as we get into our reserve. We look out in the lineup. I think there's bits and pieces we like about each and every one of them. For me, though, there's one that comes at us that's just broader and bigger based, or broader and bigger pin. They're just more dimensional. Even though they might get just a tick straight off those rear legs, we'll stay in that same hole for reserve. Congratulations. In our step-up program, we got certainly 2 bucks out here, I think, that are very different in type and kind, and I think it really comes into it. As much as I am a stickler in terms of in structure, I think our black buck just offers more to us, especially when we look on the top side. He'll be our champion. We'll step up to the red paint buck as our reserve. Thank you.
Our reserve champion, junior buck, Gambling with Dominoes, owned by Kelsey Marin. And our champion is Big Daddy Red, owned by Matthew Hedrick. And our Step Up Junior program, our reserve is Your Sweet and Spicy Ghost Pepper, owned by Henry Underwood. And our Step Up champion is Black Knight, owned by Riley Edwards.
as we get out here in this 12 to 16, 16 to 20 class of bucks. Start with a dapple buck that's certainly dimensional, big and bold ribbed. He's out on all four corners. He moves around pretty solidly as he moves around the ring. Gorgeous head on him. Just a nice buck to come out and win the class. My decision really came between second and third. I went ahead and used the red paint buck. I think one that just comes at us more extended, longer sided, bigger up off the ground. Comes at us with just a nickel more rib and shape to him than a traditional buck that rounds out the class. Traditional buck rounds out the class certainly has got a look and style about him, but one that gets just a tad two-dimensional for me to get any higher today. Thank you. We're going to leave these two as they stand, starting with just a true Goliath, a big-footed, big forearm, stout-made buck. Certainly has got mass and power written all over him. You love the mass he's got down his top and out of his hip, and he's coming to you. He ain't got an ounce of fat on him. He's in breeding shape, and he's still this big. A nice buck to come out and win the class, win the division. Taking nothing away from the buck that comes in second and comes in division reserve. I think a buck that's good and square off his feet and legs. Certainly don't have the dimension, the design, and the power as our class winner, but a really good senior division. Stay right out here.
In our 16 to 20-month-old buck class, third place, Gamblin' Prophet, owned by Hannah Staub. Second place, Fallsbrook Mojave, owned by Amy Wicknick. She's also a reserve champion. Our champion in first place is Badass Gunslinger, owned by Janine Hill. And in our step-up program, our reserve is Fallsbrook Mojave, owned by Amy Wicknick. And our step-up, sorry. So let me do that one again. So our step-up reserve is Gamblin' Prophet, owned by Hannah Staub. And our step-up champion is Fallsbrook Mojave, owned by Amy Wicknick. In our 36-month-old buck class, our second place is American Triangle, And our champion in first place is Chip Off the Old Block.
Folks, it's certainly been my pleasure here at the Big E, sorting your second goat show. If Chris didn't get it right yesterday and I didn't get it right today, I bet Terry Burks gets it right tomorrow. So my hat's off to everybody putting the show on. It's been a pleasure to be back for my second year at the Big E and really enjoy not only sorting quality goats, but also working with quality people. And there's no better than we get right here. For me, I'm really pleased with our buck lineup. I think we got several different options and lots of good, stout, powerful animals. For me, there's one that puts it together in terms of freshness, in terms of design, in terms of length of side, and the way he ties in about his shoulder. The reserve, I think, follows in and fits in that kind of same mold and pattern, but may give up just ever so slightly in terms of length. My champion goes to that fantastic Sandy red buck out of our junior. We'll step back to the yearling as our reserve. Congratulations. Now as we come into our step-up buck program, thank you. We come into our step-up buck program. Our step-up buck, our champion. We'll get everybody out here. Know where I'm going, or at least where I'm going to begin with. My step-up champion is one that's just a truly a Goliath of an animal. He's big-footed. He's stout-made. He may not have been as fresh in that open show, but as we get out here in the junior show, man, oh man, we like him a lot. Just a big, stout, soggy type of buck. Our senior champion will be our step-up champion. And from there, it really becomes a close decision. We've got some running gear issues on them all, so we're going with the one that's got the best body that I like. That's the black buck out of the junior. Congratulations. Thank you all.